Welcome home, where we provide information, inspiration, and motivator after motivator after motivator here on America's Next. I have Samantha Norwood here with me today. How you doing, Samantha?
I'm doing good.
That's good. That's good. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like for you to tune in for this episode for a story, a journey, a conversation about the life of this woman here. She's going to share it today, and I'm sure it's going to impart some value to somebody out there. So I'd like for you to tag, text, subscribe, and like this video, and get somebody else in the building as well. Samantha, where are you from?
I'm originally from Reston, Louisiana, but I've been in Dallas the past 10 years.
Okay. So you been in the South all your life?
Yes.
Now, where were you actually born and raised up until the age of, 15 years old?
Well, I was born in Homer, Louisiana, but I was raised in Reston, Louisiana.
Okay. I've never heard of either of those cities. Can you talk to us a little bit about what it was like growing up there?
Homer is a small town. Basically, it's like a circle, like one big circle. Okay. So if you go around that circle, it's like the courthouse there. You've pretty much been around the whole town. So it's very, very small. So Reston was kind of like the bigger city that I grew up in. Dallas is more city-like, but Reston was like, that was huge to us because we grew up in this little tiny, town. Mm-hmm. And so, but like Reston actually had like movies and restaurants and shopping stores and things like that, but we didn't have that back in Homer where I was born.
Okay. Now in Homer, what was the lifestyle there? What was it like for you living there? If you guys didn't have like the sorts of retail that other larger cities have, what did y'all do for fun? What was going on?
Back then we would walk, because you could walk anywhere, but it's not like it is now where I'm scared to let my kids walk down the street. Back then, we would walk everywhere, but the main place to be would be the Boys and Girls Club. Like that was just the place to be. So we would just walk there every day and go do, the recreations that they had there.
Okay. Did you have brothers and sisters?
Yes. I have one brother and 4 sisters.
Okay. And what was your life like with your siblings? What was the day in your life with them?
Ooh.
Yeah.
Well, with the girls, we had our typical sibling rivalry, okay. Which unfortunately may have followed us into adulthood. If anybody goes through anything with their family, then they may can understand where I'm coming from. So I'm closest to my baby sister. Her and I have a relationship, and then the others have, sadly, their relationships separate from us. So even growing up in the same household, we saw each other every day, but we would go months without speaking.
And y'all were children doing this?
Yeah, and that's why I said it kind of went on into adulthood. Yeah.
Did you all have conversations with your parents about what was going on with you all?
Well, my mom wasn't because I'm the only one with a separate father. So her and my dad weren't on speaking terms or whatever. But I mean, no, because she worked. She was working 1 to 2 jobs sometimes. So she kind of just depended on us to do what we were supposed to do, what we were taught to do. But I'm not really sure why we all just even now couldn't even back then or now just be like sisters and brother. But it's just, I don't know. Yeah, I think I may have mentioned it from time to time. Like she could tell we weren't speaking, but I don't think she noticed the huge time frames that we would go. Yeah.
Well, you didn't mention your father yet, or rather your sibling's father. Was he around?
No.
So pretty much you all were in the house raising yourselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
You actually touched on something that was very real, which is sibling rivalry. Um, that is something that I think could use a little bit more attention in our communities. That we have siblings that either don't get along, or they don't like each other, or they don't seem to mesh very well. And I don't know that we fill that gap in with the proper counseling, or the proper influence from adults, or just the entire family coming around and wrapping around that conflict. Would you say that?
Yes, I agree, because I think sometimes, especially when you start as young as we did, like third and fourth grade with that, they just kind of look at it as, oh, well, you guys will be okay, or, it'll be all right. It's just typical sibling rivalry. But what made me realize it was kind of like not normal was, like, I would be around my friends and they may get into a little argument with their sibling, but they wouldn't go 5 months or 6 months or a year or 2 years without speaking, being in the same household.
Wow.
So that was when I kind of noticed, like, this is
Right.
not good. Yeah.
Now, did your mother ever notice that you all weren't speaking? I know she was working a lot though.
Yes, she tried a couple of times. I remember, especially when I was like in junior high, she would try and get us together and have us to sit down, because we're still all in the same household.
Right.
But it was just a no. Just
Now, did this actually did this impact your life? Did it impact your ability to build relationships, or to have trust in other people as you got older? I mean, you might have been thinking, if I don't even speak to my sister, how could I speak to you? If I don't have a working relationship with my own sister, how could I have a relationship with you? Did that ever take place?
yes. I don't think I noticed it till maybe 3 years ago, that's why I kind of am the way that I am.
Hmm.
But yeah, I don't actually. It's crazy because people say, like, that I have two personalities. So, but
Wow.
I have to catch myself, because I can be kind of like, people say, oh, you have like this wall, or you're so defensive, or and I get offended really easily. But it's just because I'm like, oh, I know you're gonna say or do something, so I'm just like, I'm prepared, like I'm waiting on it, you
Hmm.
know.
Hmm. So you've pretty much been trying to get out of conflict from an early age in life.
Right.
Mhm.
Yes.
What were your escapes when you were younger? Did you write books? Did you read? Did you get creative? What did you do?
I actually did. I used to write poems. Um, a couple of them got published when I was in school. I used to write short stories, and the teacher would sometimes let me read them to the class, because I would like maybe write a series, like a part one and a part two. So
Hmm.
when we would have free time in the classroom, she would let me read those stories to the class. So like writing and reading was kind of my way out.
Do you remember any of those poems?
Oh, no, you know what? That's another thing too, that me and my baby sister talked about, was how our memories from then is like almost non-existent. Like, it's so much that we can't remember, and we were just talking about maybe because of the trauma may have played a part in like our memory, like maybe we just block certain things out, or it's because it's just so much that I even put that together. I'm not surprised that I have the magazine, but I think it was last year I was talking to somebody and I was like, you know what, I think I'm like, I have a memory now of me reading stories and writing, and I'm like, that's probably why I'm able to have the magazine.
Hmm.
And then that's when it all started coming back to me, like, oh yeah, I actually did used to read stories and do this and that. So
You know, I think that a lot of our experiences in life, they distract us from our actual destiny.
right.
They cloud our senses. They are like noise in our ears. All the different things that happen and pull us in different directions. And so when you look back on your childhood, it's kind of like a blur. You almost blacked out, right? But
Yeah.
even with that, you were able to remember that there was a calling on your life, and that you had talents and gifts, and you said, "Oh yeah, I used to be a writer. I was creative. Let me get back into that."
Hmm.
I think that's powerful. I think that's powerful. And let everybody out there in the world be encouraged that no matter what's going on in your life, no matter what traumas have come your way, think deeply about who you are and what it is that you have to offer the world, because there is something there. You got something. Now, she remembered that she was a writer and that she was a creator. And today she has her own magazine. And we're going to talk about that. But first, we have a comment from the audience. Yolanda Riley's been here from the beginning. She said, my mom wouldn't let us go to bed or mad at each other or definitely not fighting. And then she says, what do you plan to do differently with your children? Can you talk about that?
Okay, yes. So with my children, I just try to keep them close. Like I always talk to them about bonding. Like even my oldest son, I'm like, hey, don't just let your little brother sit on the game all day. Take him outside, go shoot basketball, go get on your hoverboards and ride. I just try to teach them because they do get in their little wrestling and moods, but we always sit down and talk right afterwards, and they'll end up apologizing to each other, and then they're back to doing what they were doing before. So that's my way of doing that, is to taking care of the situation right then and there and actually raising them to have a bond, because I felt like with us growing up, I didn't have a bond with them.
Right.
Only I don't know what attached me to my baby sister, but I had a bond with her, but not with my other ones. No.
That can be seen as stopping a generational dysfunction. What happened when you were growing up, you're not letting that continue with your children. Right. And that's actually very admirable for you to do that. And then the other part of it is, that's actually the definition of raising children. When you sit down and you have a conversation about what's going on, and you try to come to a solution or a resolution about the conflict that's happening, that's proper parenting. So I want to commend you for that, because when you see a tear between your children, you fix that tear.
Right.
So I want to commend you, and I also want to thank Yolanda Riley for dropping that comment.
Yes.
Siblings out there in the world should be encouraged to take care of one another and fix broken areas in your relationship. If you have a brother or a sister out there, I want you to think about what Samantha Norwood is doing in her life and apply it in your life. How much further would our families be? How much further would our communities be if siblings repaired their relationships? If siblings look back and try to at least have a conversation, at least talk about the concept of bonding, where could we be? Yeah. Now, Samantha, you started writing and getting creative in school, and your teacher noticed that you had some gifts and talents. Yeah. What did middle school look like for you?
I was so kind of just lost. When I say that, just pretty much going to school. And I would this is where the memory comes in at. I'm trying to tell you what I remember, but I mostly remember just kind of being lost, kind of feeling strange in a sense. Because if you have a parent that works a lot and everything, and they're raising these kids by themselves, it's just certain things that I just didn't know how to do. Even as an adult, sometimes like people laugh at me, and then I'm like, no, I'm serious. Like I genuinely don't know. And so I would say it's the same. Then I just kind of like followed my friends, would teach me stuff or show me things. And not to say I was a follower, and I'm actually still friends with them to this day. So I have the same friends. So
right. That's good.
Yeah. Just, I can't remember too much from that time, but I can remember that.
Ladies and gentlemen out there, what she's talking about is it's making me think. It's making me think deeply about the circumstances of childhood. And I remember when I was younger, just like you might remember as well, having so many questions about the world and having so many concepts that you wanted answers for. You trying to figure out how the world is working. You trying to figure out how your life is working. You're trying to figure out how everything works. And what a tragedy it is for there to be no answers during that period of your life. Could you imagine from 6 years old to 15 years old, all the questions that you wonder about life never being answered?
Right.
Where do you go from there? How do you become an adult after all of those unanswered questions and all of those unfielded concerns about life? So that's deep.
Yeah.
That's
You
deep.
know, yeah, I saw something that said, are you watching your kids grow up or raising them or something like that, it said. And that's why with my kids, I try to be active. We go out every Friday. That's their time because, we're dealing with homeschool and everything. And so on Fridays, I take them out wherever they want to go. And that's like our bonding time and family time that we spend together. And my kids ask me all kind of questions. So, and I'm like, dang, like, I'm like, if I, would have had that, but, and I'm still like learning things as I go. A lot of us are, but it's on a different level to where it's like people look at me and they're like, you don't know that? And I'm like, why would I know that? And they're like, well, I knew that when I was 12. And I'm like, well, you had somebody to tell you or teach you. I didn't.
Right. What are some things that you wanted to learn or know when you were a child that maybe some other child out there today needs to learn? And maybe you can educate us or give us some insight into some things that people need to learn. And we need to make sure that they learn. What are some things that you wanted to know when you were younger?
That's such a good question. And I want to give you an honest answer.
It's okay to be honest. And while you think of what you want to say, I'll give some examples from my life.
Okay.
I wanted to know how to change a tire on a car. Okay. I wanted to know how to tie a tie. I wanted to know how to build a clubhouse. Right. I wanted to know how to cook. I wanted to know how to make, pancakes. I wanted to know how to fry chicken. I wanted to know how to be an adult.
Yeah.
And far too often, the things that you learn how to do are things that are absolutely no help to you. When you grow up in small pockets of America where nobody's really paying attention. And as you can see from Samantha's story today, we have pockets of people who are desperate for information. And it's important for us to open our mouths. That's why this show exists. This is why America's Next Motivator exists. The youth, the children, the community needs our stories. They need us to talk. They need us to share our stories.
Yes.
Do you have any ideas of things that you wanted to learn about when you were a kid?
Maybe just, I guess, just trying to figure out what I wanted to do. Because a lot of my friends, they're doing what they always said they was going to do. So, but I didn't have a clue. Even with the writing, like at some point it just stopped. So I can't tell you when, but like at some point I just even forgot that there was something that I was even interested in.
Wow.
So,
it's like it's almost like you were going through enough trauma or enough loneliness or enough isolation that you just kind of blacked out. Like you just kind of zoned out.
Yeah.
And the years flew by and you almost didn't even realize that the years were flying by.
Right. Yeah. Like I talk to people now. I can talk about it because I'm realizing like what has happened. But then it's just kind of like maybe like 5 years ago, I would just be like, well, dang, like, why can't I remember that? Or who are you? Even to this day, people say, you don't remember us. We used to do this, to do that together. And I have no clue who this person is. And so now I'm trying to do things to like trigger Like when I said it, like little like brain games and things on the phone. I just try to look up stuff and read stuff and things like that.
Right. That was a survival mechanism that you blacked out, or that you didn't really remember every single detail, because the details weren't really enthusing you about life. The details were probably boring you to death, and you wanted to get out into the world and see something better and do something better.
Yes.
And go ahead.
Oh, but no. I actually just thought of something. I think I just at that time I just wanted to know how to like be like everybody else because I felt so different. Just from like not knowing like little simple stuff. Well, it was little simple stuff to them, but it was huge things to me. And like even to this day, I'm still like that.
Mhm.
And so I think that would be the main thing if I could go back and ask, like, hey, how do I just be like that person? Like, how do I just be normal?
Well, I mean, and how do you just be yourself?
Right.
You know, and that's the main question that so many of us, if not all of us, really want answered. We want to know, how do I be myself? Because I could never be this young man or this young lady better than them. They're going to be them.
Right.
How can I not have the anxiety of keeping up with the Joneses? How can I not have the anxiety of trying to be like everybody else and just be myself? And
Right.
that's a huge question.
Yeah. Like I always just wanted to know, I wish back then I could have just known, like, hey, okay, like writing can actually get you somewhere. And I'm actually like really into skincare. I went to school to get my esthetician license, so that's another thing that I do. But I was like, dang, if I could have been like a dermatologist or something, or like I could have, you know, did this beforehand and been even further, in my career and just everything. But I guess things happen when they're supposed to. So I try not to dwell on it. But I do try to spread it to my siblings. We even though we can't seem to keep a stable relationship when we are on speaking terms, I can try to let them know, like, hey, this is not normal, because I have friends who have family and they're not going 5 and 6 years without speaking. I have two sisters who haven't spoken in almost 7 years.
Wow.
So
What I also hear you saying today is that a meaningful relationship with not only your mother but maybe your father and some other adults. If you would have had meaningful relationships with a whole
mhm,
village of people, just like how you say normal people have, then maybe you would have aimed much higher.
exactly. Yes.
Right. And so, everybody be encouraged to be a village for somebody. Be a village for some kid, some person, some member of your community, because when we are villages for one another, it allows people to feel anchored enough to aim high. See, in order for you to skyrocket, you've got to be anchored. If you've ever seen a rocket take off to launch into space, the anchor is solid. You know, the foundation of a skyscraper is deep. The foundation of a good house is deep and strong and solid. And so we got to be anchored by a village in order to aim high. And what she's saying is that if she would have had more meaningful relationships in her life, that she would have aimed even higher. Now, we're gonna talk about some of the things that you set out to accomplish in life in the second half of this show.
Okay.
But before we even do that, did you ever look into your heritage? Did you ever look to find out who your ancestors were? Like try to find more family. Did you ever do that?
I actually asked my grandmother questions. But this is another very sensitive topic for some people, so I'm going to watch what I say. But everyone on my mother's side, it's from strict religion. My grandmother had, I think, 13 or 14 kids. And so they grew up in a very strict environment. And my mother would later on come to tell me like there was things that she didn't know. So if she doesn't know, how can she tell me or show me? You know what I'm saying? Which made sense. Perfect sense to me. And I've never looked at my mom in a negative way. But so I didn't know. The answer is no to the question, because it's just certain things that we can't ask or that we're not allowed to say, or if you're not in, if you're disfellowshipped from that, there's just certain things that they can't even supposedly talk to you about. So
Okay.
yeah.
All right. The reason I asked that question is because sometimes when you get to look at the bigger picture by getting to find out who more of your family is,
Right.
it can brighten your perspective a little bit to know, hey, I'm not just this cluster of 5 people who's not working out. You know,
Right.
I'm part of a cluster of 100 family members, or a cluster of 200 or 300 family members. Like we talked about that village. Sometimes when you're able to realize that village, it brightens your perspective a little bit. And so, ladies and gentlemen, we're having a very profound discussion today with a deeply American story that is Samantha Norwood, and we'll be right back after this brief message. America's Next Motivator, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern, Tuesday and Thursday at 10 a.m. Eastern. America's Next Motivator, hosted by me, Cedric Riley, and sponsored by the Pride Empowerment Network. And we're back. Samantha, how you feeling out there?
I'm feeling good.
All right. Hey, you've done a courageous thing today by coming on our platform to share your story. Now, what were you intending to do with your life after high school?
Well, I probably would have had to made it through high school first.
Mm-hmm.
But like I struggled so bad. But my original plan was to graduate, and then I was gonna move to LA, and I was gonna be like on TV or something. Like, it was because at the time I'm like 16, so I'm thinking, oh, I'm gonna move to Los Angeles, and I'm gonna be on TV and to do this and that or whatever. But then, sadly, a relationship tore that out.
Well, first of all, Samantha, you can smile and wave to the camera because you are on TV today.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen out there on Roku, we want to thank you for supporting our episodes, Apple TV, Android TV, Facebook, and YouTube, our entire village for being a part of this episode. It makes a difference when you are a part, when you drop comments, when you drop questions, and when you tune in. It makes a big difference because now we are supported in this conversation. Now, Samantha, let's talk about relationships. Did you feel like you were taken by storm, or what is your perspective on relationships at a young age, where you probably could have used a better relationship with your dad or some other men in your
Right.
community?
My relationship then, I just kind of saw it as like, oh, like I have somebody here, like somebody I can actually talk to every day and go do things with. And he actually taught me how to drive when I was 17, taught me how to drive, and it just felt good to have somebody like teaching me how to do things and showing me how to do things, because it was like I could go to him and ask him these things, because I maybe wasn't able to go to my mom or, anybody else. So at the time, it looked good. It felt good because I'm like, hey, I actually have somebody I could go to, and he was older than me, so he knew more. But it looked good at the time. Yeah.
So now let's make this a victorious moment for young people out there. We have 440,000 youth in a foster care system. Many of them are growing up the way that you grew up.
Yeah.
In need of more positive people in their lives and in need of positive information, helpful information. So now, can you give some advice to young women out there on relationships?
Just the moment something doesn't feel right, or if you think you've seen this red flag, you have to pay attention to those things. Those aren't just the little things lead up to the bigger picture or the bigger things is what I know now. There were a lot of red flags that I saw that I let go because I was looking at the good, and I had gotten comfortable with him. Like that was my comfort zone. But there were so many red flags or little things that I kind of, would frown at, but I'd still try to just hold on to that relationship. So pay attention to what your mind is telling you, and those red flags. And if you're a woman, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Pay attention to those, because those are key.
Well, we live in an era where we can't assume that we know what the red flags are.
Oh, well, yeah.
Would you be able to share some of them with us?
Oh, yes. A red flag would be insecurity is a huge red flag for me. Like maybe, like I couldn't even turn my head if there were people standing outside the corner store, because we had this corner store that everybody would always be at and go to. I'm not sure why. They would just be out there. And so I know one time I turned to look and he like grabbed my face. That's a red flag, okay. Grabbed my face. And it made me angry because I'm like, what, why would you grab my face? Like, why can't I look? But he was like, oh, because you're checking them out. Like you're looking at those dudes. And I'm like, not in that way. Like we're driving by, there's a bunch of people at the store. I just so happened to turn my head and look, but the grabbing of the face was a red flag. Yes.
Okay. We definitely need to be aware of red flags. And when you realize that this is a red flag, you should leave the relationship.
Definitely. Definitely. Yes, because from that day forward, I don't think we had a normal day. Like from that day forward. Yeah. Like it was just that day moving forward became like physical. And I would say on both ends, like anybody that knew me growing up, I was so quiet. But then around the age of between 17 to my mid 20s, I just became like a very aggressive person, because I'm not going to say he says he made me tough, because we actually did have a daughter together, but he says, I made you tough. When you met me, people were walking all over you and you were quiet, but I'm like, causing me trauma and causing me to be physical did not make me tough. Like, that's why would you say that? Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
People's mentality.
I want to also encourage young women out there and young men out there to don't just allow yourself to be manipulated. If you feel like there are red flags happening in your relationship, try to find somebody who knows better to have a conversation with. If you don't have the life experience to know what you're doing, try to get into a conversation with somebody who might be able to give you some good advice in this situation, because it's not okay for, after all the trauma that you've been through in your life, after all the dysfunction that you've overcame in your life, to be subject to somebody who's essentially preying on you, because they see that you don't have a village, and they see that you don't have a higher counsel who's making sure that you make the next best decision in your life. So you are worth more than being manipulated just because you want some company. And
Right.
you are worth more than being mistreated just because you don't see anybody else in your neighborhood who's willing to be in a relationship with you. But that's tough. That's tough. And this is the reason why, as a community, we've got to wake up. We've got to wake up and we've got to engage. We need to get out there. We need to get to know one another, because you never know. You never know when somebody could just totally benefit from being in a respectable relationship with you.
Right.
You never know who. And reach far and wide. They might not be in your state. I'm in New York. Where are you, Samantha?
Dallas, Texas.
In Dallas, Texas. We have to wake up, y'all. And when I say wake up, we have to open our eyes and look at who we are, which is a human family. You never know which member of your human family needs a phone call, a video chat, or a connection or a relationship.
Right.
Now, how long did you deal with this circumstance where you obviously felt a little bit hindered by being in this relationship? How long did this go on?
About 3.5 years until I moved here. When I found out that I was going to be, having a child, I had told him that day, and he went outside and made a comment that just set me on fire. And I said, you know what? If I say something, I'm going to put myself at risk for losing my daughter. So I finally got on the phone, because my mom had already moved here, and called her, and I said, hey, listen, we don't speak much, but I'm pregnant with your first grandchild, and I can't be here with him. And that was when I told her everything that was going on. And they came, her and my stepdad at the time just came and got me the next morning. I was gone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I wasn't going to put my child in that situation. No.
I definitely commend you for that. A lot of our mothers out here are heroes. The way that they make changes to keep their family safe, the way that women make changes and change the whole course of their lives to protect their children, I think is very heroic. And I just want to respect that today. In fact, let's have a moment of silence for all the mothers out there, just like Samantha, who are making changes to protect themselves and to protect their children. Now, Samantha, once you got to Texas, you were on fire. You were fed up with the things you went through in life. You were ready to take off like a rocket, do something new, and be something better.
Yes.
When did you create this magazine? What's the name of the magazine? Let's talk about it.
Okay, so the name of the magazine is CHIC. It actually stands for Create, Help, Inspire, Change. I came up with the magazine in November of 2015, trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And I said, okay, well, I want to get back into writing. Took some index cards and started just writing down different names. And I said, well, I needed to mean something. Like, I like chic society, but I needed to mean something. And that was when I came up with Create, Help, Inspire, Change. And I just kind of went from there.
What are you seeking to do with this magazine?
Well, I really want to help people in my own community, like the content creators, people who are, writers, entrepreneurs, people with their own businesses. I want to help them grow their business, give them the exposure and the tools that they need. It's just so much that starting off a business you may not know. And so that's kind of where I can come in at and say, hey, okay, well, what are you doing as far as marketing and all these different things? I just kind of want to offer them a platform to where they can get that exposure, network, and everything that that they need to succeed with their business.
Absolutely. Now, how many publications have you done so far?
About 14.
Okay. Now, how do you put these publications together? Like, do you reach out to people? Do you collect photos? How do you do it?
Well, I take submissions. So what I do is, I go on my social media platforms and I'll say, okay, I'm accepting submissions for our November issue. Send me your company bio, 3 to 4 pictures, along with all your social media, information. And what I do is when they send me those things, I create an ad. and I place it inside of the magazine, or they can get the front cover, which is what really draws people to the magazine. Is our, like, the bold colors in our cover. Like when you get the cover, it's almost like the person is standing next to you.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's,
Hey, ladies and gentlemen, let's get some hearts, some likes, and some support in the building. I'm actually going to do a light round of applause as well, because what she did was she went out into the world and she still created something. She still manifested something. She still produced greatness. And it's those types of examples that just have the ability to inspire people clear across the planet. Now, how can we support your magazine? How can we find it? Where is it? Where is it published? Where can we find your magazine?
You can just go to your web browser, type in chicsocietymagazine.com, and you will see merchandise for you to purchase, which kind of makes you like an official member of the Chic Squad. Or you can purchase a copy of the magazine there. And then we also have a blog that I post my interviews and things like that on.
This is phenomenal. I would like to say that the Pride Empowerment Network, America's Next Motivator family, let's all wrap around Samantha Norwood. Let's discover her magazine. I'm learning new things from her. I thought it was CHIC Society magazine, but it's chic.
Yeah, chic.
And so she's put thought into what she decided to manifest in this world. And when you say society, does that mean that you're building a culture around this magazine?
Yes, like when people come and they email me, we kind of become family. Like I want them to feel like I'm family, you know? So that's where the society part comes in. And then we all feed off of each other. Like if I get an amazing model submission, but then I know that there's a photographer and she's like, I can't afford to pay $400 and $500 for a shoot. I'll hook that model up with that photographer, and then they'll go create something. And then they'll, it's just about building a connection. So yeah, that's where the society part comes in at.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So again, people can go to your website, acquire the magazine, and you're a writer now. What sorts of pieces do you write?
Oh boy. We do. Well, I personally, in every issue, I'll do like an editor's note. Sorry, just to update people on things that I'm going through in my life, or how the magazine has changed and how we've grown. When I got divorced, I did a section called Life Talk, where I gave tips on how not to be bitter. Still let that man have a relationship with his children and things like that. So I try to incorporate what I'm really going through into the magazine. I don't like to just make up content. I want somebody to read it and be able to relate to it. And, and I try to stay genuine and real, so if it just depends.
Okay. So you're not somebody who is trying to put celebrity gossip or negative media out there. You're trying to do the opposite. You're trying to produce positive media.
Yes, and that can be very hard. I just had an interview that I did with a celebrity who, the interview was a little awkward, but then afterwards I found out that he was just so odd at how I didn't dig too deep and how I wasn't negative or anything, and they're not used to that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I was trying to tell him, like, no, I wasn't gonna bring this up or bring that up. Like that's not what I'm here for. I, like you said, I'm trying to do the opposite. I'm trying to create a positive media platform.
Right. And you're right. Sometimes it can be hard to make sure that you're being a positive media outlet, because sometimes the stories of the day are so sensational and they're not positive stories.
Right.
So that takes a conscious effort. I think that that's really cool what you decided to do. Now, do you ever get notes or emails from people saying, "Hey, I'm reading your magazine and it's having an impact on me"?
Oh yes. I had someone, when I did the Life Talk section about the divorce, when I put, find something to do, find something to keep you busy, don't keep calling the phone and then hang it up and leaving messages and bombarding him with text messages because you're upset that he left. Like, you use that energy to go do something positive. Call somebody you haven't spoken to in a long time. Go see a movie with a friend. Just try and channel that energy, because a lot of people actually thought that I didn't even care about my husband, but I did. But I just decided, like, I can't sit here and cry and be in this state and angry and mad for too long. I have to move on. Life goes on.
Right.
So you can't waste your time being bitter, mad, or upset. You can't.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. Now, have you ever reached back for young ladies or young men growing up in that Louisiana town that you grew up in who might be going through the same thing that you went through when you were their age?
Oh man, people from my hometown message me all the time, and they just tell me how proud they are of me. I know a couple of people hit me up on Facebook, and they were like, "You're doing such a good job. Like, just keep going, and we're so proud of you." And they showed me a lot of support, and it's appreciated.
Absolutely. Now, if somebody wants to submit an article, what email address would they use?
You would submit your article to Chic Society Magazine at gmail.com.
Okay. CHIC Society Magazine. Is this a large publication? And how many books do you all put out when you do drop an edition?
Well, we just started as of, I think, this October of 2020, putting out an issue every month. I was doing every season, with the seasons change, but business just, it started picking up. And so, now we're booked up for the next 6 months. So we have to put out an issue every month because we have people submitting that much content.
Wow. How are you using social media to grow your brand and grow your business?
Ooh, I'm watching webinars and learning about boosting posts, getting out of my comfort zone and actually showing my face, because like for the first couple of years, people really didn't know what I looked like unless you was from my hometown or was friends with me on Facebook. You didn't know what I looked like. You just saw like the cover models and other people that I was working with. Like, I like to be behind the scenes. But since I've started to show my face more and actually let people see me like, hey, I'm a real person here, it's just started doing even better. And so.
Okay. And how many followers do you have on Instagram right now?
Well, right now, I think we're a little over 2,600, but this is a brand new account that I just started 3 months ago. Our old account, we had over 10,000, but I kind of let someone else come in and they were turning it into the very thing I'm not trying to do. So I kind of had to just wipe it out and start fresh.
I want to first of all, I'm going to submit an article to your magazine.
Okay.
We have other people in the building who are also writers and creators. I'm encouraging other people to submit articles, even if it comes out a few months from now, because like you said, you guys got content booked up, ready to go. But I just want to join your movement as well and support your cause, because I do see you as somebody who represents hope, you represent success, and you represent so many other positive things coming from where you've come from. Now, what is your plan for the next 5 years? Where would you like to see yourself and your family?
Well, I've already I would like to be a homeowner. So I have been working on my credit, which is, you can kind of stalk it a little bit once you start keeping up with your score. But so I'm working on my credit because I want to become a homeowner, because I want to actually like raise my kids in one spot versus going from apartment to apartment. And I want the magazine to get in stores. So I've actually spoken with someone from a couple of different places to try and get it out there to, to reach even more people. And I don't know, those are only 2 things right now. I'm real simple.
Any webinars or online presentations that you felt like really helped you out that you like to pass along to others today?
Whew. I would have to go and look them up to remember
Okay.
what they were, because I sometimes how you're scrolling on Facebook and you'll see this thing about a free webinar about how to do this and how to
Right.
do that. I would encourage people like to actually attend some of those and stay. Some of them you will have to pay for your next session, but it really is good information. Like if you can try to attend one, and it's free, and you get a lot of good information about how to actually like modernize Facebook and Instagram.
Absolutely. So when it comes to monetization, which is making money off
Yeah.
of being a content creator on these different platforms, there's a lot of different information out there.
Yeah.
And so let's definitely unite in this moment and encourage other creatives out there. There are a lot of videos on YouTube that you can look up on how to amplify or boost your posts, Facebook ads, how to boost your business on Instagram. And recently, I was studying the algorithm. See, Facebook has an algorithm
Yeah.
that you need to understand in order to grow your business. Instagram has an algorithm that you need to understand in order to grow your business. YouTube has an algorithm that you need to understand in order to grow your business. So there's a pattern here. Look up articles, books, and webinars on the algorithms of these platforms. And once you know how to treat and respect the algorithm, then your platform will grow. And this is work. This is definitely
Yes.
work.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Knowing when to post, what to post. You got to know what time are your followers are they most active, because that's when you're going to get the most reactions. Paying attention to things like that. Don't just focus on the number of followers, because there's people out there with a lot of followers, but they're not getting the reactions that they want, or they're not making that much money. So don't get caught up in the numbers games, because what I found when companies reach out to me for certain things, they always ask to see my insights, because that's what matters. People can go out and pay for followers.
Right.
That doesn't mean anything, but your audience numbers, your insights, that's what companies or people, you might be trying to get a sponsor from a huge company like Target or whatever. That's what they're going to want to see. Trust me when I tell you, they're going to want to see those insights.
Right. And see, ladies and gentlemen, that's why it's so important when you tune in here to America's Next Motivator, or you purchase a copy of CHIC magazine, each and every click, push, pull, purchase, it matters and it counts for the big picture. So I definitely want to appreciate everybody for being here for this conversation. And as we round third base, I just got a few questions for you.
Okay.
The first is, what is survival to you?
Really, for me, it's just getting through the day to day. And I know I say that, but it's some people out there that know what I'm talking about, because there's like, I can't think of a day where I've just gotten up and just was like, it takes a lot to get up. So,
Did
yeah.
did spirituality play a role in your survival?
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
How
Like
so?
sometimes I think that I don't even want to say, I think I just know that like I went through certain stuff because I was meant to help people and motivate them and encourage them. People tell me that all the time. They're like, "Oh, you're such a good motivator." And I'm like, yeah, but that came from my experiences. So, and I'm not scared to share that with people because I know it helps. So in that sense, I feel like, okay, I went through that because I was supposed to be doing this, what I'm doing now. And so, yeah.
I think that that's a great testimony right there. That the things that you go through in life, they make you a motivator for other people. She
Yes,
said it herself. What
definitely.
is what is success to you?
Like, oh my gosh. Like I said, I want to give you honest answers. To me being, well, success to me would be just accomplishing my small, right now would be my short term goals, as they call it. which would be just to try and being a good mom, expanding and growing the magazine, which I'm doing all of those things right now, and just really just being happy.
Absolutely.
Yeah, like
What
just
What is greatness to you?
gosh, greatness would be leaving something for my 3 kids. Like that's when I like the moment where I know they have something is when like like that's greatness to me. Like leaving them something. And I say that even with the magazine, like when they come here, my youngest son, he's 11, but he'll actually read them.
Right.
I know he's like a grown guy. I always joke like you've been here before or something because he's not at like he is something. But yeah, like just that's greatness. Leaving something for them.
Ladies and gentlemen, get your crown emojis ready. Samantha Norwood, I want to let you know that I've listened to your story today. I've been inspired. I've been deeply, deeply inspired by your journey, the realness and the rawness of your experience, and I can relate to you on many levels. I'd like to give you some respect while you can still see it and acknowledge it, and I'd like to give you a crown today as well.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, put the crown emojis in the building for Miss Samantha Norwood. We're going to give you a crown today while you're still living. And we're letting the world know that you, Samantha Norwood, you are America's next motivator.
Thank you.
Very welcome. Thanks for stopping by today, all right?
All right, thanks. Bye.
Bye-bye. Ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. Each and every episode of America's Next Motivator is going to have something here for you. All you've got to do, oh, we got some crowns in the building. There goes your crowns. All you got to do is stop by and pick it up.